Good evening and welcome to Raconteurs News, Tuesday edition. It's the 20th of November 2018. I'm Jason Holmes and I'll be joined by my co-host Paul Webster. But we're going to be kicking off tonight. We've got a great guest tonight, by the way. I'm really looking forward to this. But I just wanted to start off just a couple of things that I've noticed today. This goes into the what I've learned today category. And I think this is probably the most astounding thing that I've seen today. But you know, we've got TV in this house, and there was an advert on today. You know, the adverts that say, you know, please give so and so £3 a month so that you know he can have some toilet paper and all this. Get this one. There is now one that it's asking for a donation for children who can't blink. Who can't blink. That's incredible. So, you know, if they can't blink, we should send them some money. But it always seems to be us right down at the very bottom that get all the get all the begging letters and stuff. And I don't suppose the people at the top and the MPs and that even give it a second thought that there are children in Africa that can't blink who've got probably, I think it might be some form of conjunctivitis that they've got over there, a vicious aggressive force. Anyway, welcome to everybody in the chat room as well. We had a great show last night. It's it's been quite well received today amongst people. So if you've not heard that, that was with Anne-Marie Carey. That was last night, and it was pretty good and pretty lively. Anyway, let's get to tonight. I'm joined by my mate, the beast from the east of the country, over there in Lancashire. Oh, no, that's the west, isn't it? Oh, balls. See, my geography's absolutely terrible. I'm looking at it the wrong way around. Paul Webster, how you doing, mate?
Oh, all right, you knob.
Don't call me that. I have enough people calling me a knob as it is.
Is it sinking in then? Is it sinking in what you are?
I think it is. Well, I hope there isn't a knob sinking in anywhere on me, but I think that's probably one for super leads in the chat room who is probably on Viagra again.
Say no more. Say no more.
Anyway, how's your day been, mate? Had a good one?
Yeah, it's been a quiet one. Again, I'm not going out as much at the minute, so just a bit of research on, again, some work I'm doing, so all's good. Everything's getting better, so
join the club, mate. Join the club. Yeah, I've been knocking about in here today. I went out to get. This is the funny thing. I went out to give my stepson a driving lesson. Now the funny thing is I can't, because I've only got one leg. I can't drive a manual car, but I can give him a driving lesson in a manual car, which is bizarre, really. I think, because if anything happens, there's no I can do about it, is there? I can't drive it away if he gets stuck or anything. So it's quite bizarre. But I took him out for a driving lesson. I take him out every few days. He's just bought a new car, so we're just trying to get him sorted for his test and stuff. So I have been out and been cruising around Sheffield a little bit like the in-betweeners, you know. He were driving up City Road in Sheffield, and I saw some people at a bus, and I rolled down the window and shouted bus wankers at them, just so that I could feel like I fitted in with the youth of today, the 18-year-old youths.
Shouldn't be wandering around with knives and stabbing people then? That's what's going on with the youth of London, seemingly. Another stabbing again today at Lidl, in broad daylight again.
It's outrageous, isn't it?
It's lawless, isn't it? It's lawless.
It's absolutely outrageous. Yeah, it is. It is getting lawless. And did you see the film of some coppers being beat up? I think that were in London as well, weren't they? Been dragged out and given a good kick in. Now, I don't condone violence.
Sorry, Jason. The interesting thing was people watched that happen and people filmed that happen. People didn't step in. That is a major change in what I would have thought of the British public. Do you know what I mean? They'd never stand by and see something like that happen.
That's because the public are no longer mostly British, I don't think, a lot of them anyway, particularly in London, which I think white British are in a minority, I think, for the first time, yeah. So anyway, we've got a great guest on tonight, and I know you booked her and you've spoken to her, and it's everything sounds really, really interesting. So why don't you introduce our guest for this evening?
Yeah, well, our guest this evening's a lady who's an ex-prison officer who's had to come out with her story because it's been particularly harrowing, some of the experiences that she's going to speak about. She's had an interview with John Wedger, who we've already had on the show, who again was a police whistleblower, because it is hard to get out of all the public sector what is going on. And, you know, I've known many people say about the prison service is that it's the original secret service. So hopefully tonight Teena will shed some light on her experience involved in the public sector. Good evening, Teena. How are you doing?
Oh, hang on. I need to...
Go on, Jason.
Oh,
Find the right button, mate.
Where's Andy when you need him?
You've even muted yourself.
Where's Andy when you need him? There we go.
Yeah, see, you've got it.
You know, I'm like with technology.
It wasn't your fault, Teena. Right, go on, introduce yourself to us and tell us your story.
Okie dokie then. I'm Teena Buckler, former prison officer. But firstly, I just want to inform yourselves of the sort of person that I am. I've been a single mum for 29 years of 2 boys. I was first female door safe bouncer in Bristol when I was 21 with Hells Angels and the NCC. I also used to live in between 2 heroin addicts and came out in a police officer's uniform. And then I joined the prison service in the year 2000. So, as you can see, I'm not easily intimidated by anyone really, or my mum. But I don't get intimidated at all. A lot of my skills come from being able to adapt, being able to sense the atmospheres and situations, and being able to be approachable no matter what the situation's going on. So, you know, I obviously have gone for law jobs. I made my choices. I could have gone down the other avenue like a lot of people did my age, with the heroin, etc., because I was a single mum. But I didn't. I went back to college. I did more qualifications. Like I said, became a special constable, and then joined the prison service in the year 2000 as an admin assistant. Now, when I joined, it took well over 4.5 to 5 months for my clearance to come through. Now, it was because it was a Cat A high-risk prison, and unfortunately my mum married 4 Irishmen. So that's why it took quite a long time for my clearance to come through. And back then, it was the stringent regulations on people being allowed access into the prison were completely different to what they are now. I still have my epaulets, I still have my tally, I still have everything. And I know I could go into that prison and probably just walk in because security is so lax. Anyway, so started off as an admin assistant, and it was to set up the Carrots team, which was at the time with the drug strategy. It was counselling, assessment, referral, aftercare, true care service. So it was the Carrots, and it was set up by myself, a probation officer, and an ex-addict who became a counsellor, then obviously went further up the drug strategy ladder, and 2 nurses. We, as a team, did this so well. Bristol was the flagship for it. I set up all the links with the referrals from the police to the referrals to the rehabilitation units, to hostels, etc. And it was working. We were able to get offenders that had been problematic with their drugs on a certain wing to get drug tested. We have mandatory drug testing units, everything. So we set that up. I then went to H.M.P. Hill, where all the admin assistants from around the country attended, and I had to sell the carrots and what it was and what we wanted it to become. This no longer exists, as does not the drug strategy. Why? Who can tell me? So I progressed. As time went on, I became an admin officer and did the recruitment within the prison system. At the time, personnel was in each prison. Our human resources, everything. So it was easier to get information about ourselves, etc., information about how we should go, the protocols, the prison service orders, and I did all the recruitment, as in advertising, applications, sifting, getting the panel boards up. So I progressed, and obviously still being a single mum, still part-time, but I was thoroughly enjoying it because I was able to expand my knowledge. I was able to reorganise things, and we had people on site for staff stress, prison work. We had things like acupuncture for the prisoners to help with their stress levels. We had a lady that we were able to go to and talk to her confidentially. She was nothing to do with the prison service. She was just a therapist. So we were able to talk, and she'd do Indian head massages, etc. But it was a really good place for officers to go to let some steam off, whether it be through prisoners or colleagues, whatever. They were able to go there. They were able to get information through the staff care and welfare line. My experiences, as I will talk about, none of this now exists. The prison system, when I first joined, had prolific offenders. We had, as I said, the carrots, the drug strategy team. We had mental health. We used to have people coming in to do art, like mental health, artwork, talking therapies, different things. We had dedicated MDT officers, which was mandatory drug testing. We actually had a wing, which was meant to be the voluntary drug-free wing, where they agreed to get tested every week. I know by the time I left, none of this existed. Even the mandatory drug testing, which comes from head office and the government, names are randomly given to every prison once a month. Didn't see any of that during my last year there. So we had all of this. We had education. We had courses for prisoners. We had workshops. We had so many different things put in place to establish rehabilitation for the prisoners. And it worked well. It actually worked. You know, prisoners were coming to us. They were open about their drug use, about their mental health, everything. They were very open, and we were able to assist them in some way or another.
Sorry, Teena, can I just butt in there? A couple of questions I wanted to ask you. Who was funding this? I've just sort of slightly missed the beginning when I went and rolled off down there. Who's funding this initiative that you're involved with, and what sort of qualifications did you need to have to implement it?
As in the carrot team?
Yes, the carrot, yeah.
Right. Basically, we had the probation. So it was a qualified probation officer who worked within the prison to do the help set up carrots. She done the probation work to go, etc., hostels, whatever. We also had, like I said, Gala, but she was the main person as far as counselling, the drug strategy, etc. went. It was all funded by the prison service to be set up. I was an admin assistant. Luckily, I was extremely organised and on the ball, so we were able to get things up and running really quick. And we had 2 allocated nurses that were trained in drug awareness and what to do with withdrawal symptoms, etc. So it was actually funded by the prison service.
And did you say that that's no longer there now?
No.
And
Not as far as I'm aware.
You said it works, but it's no longer there.
Exactly. All of the stuff that worked is no longer there. My own personal opinion is 2004, when the government changed, this is when everything started to go. This is when
down to that magic word money again.
Yes. It is down to the funding, obviously. The privatisation of probation took them out of the prison service because we used to have probation officers in most prisons that helped prisoners when they were due for release, on where to go, etc., etc. All of these workshops that were done for them, all of this information that was given to them, none of that is available now. And it wasn't available when I left in 2013. So literally it was on the bare bones when I left. And the situation now, with my research and information that I have obtained, I could give you figures now about the prison population, about what has happened. And it is, I personally believe, down to the government changes and the austerity cuts, because H.M.P. Bristol became a Cat B, local remand, from a high-risk ACAT. So we had all the security, we had the dogs, we had the staff. As soon as it went to a local remand Cat B, we lost the security, the dogs, and the staffing. They stated that the reason it went to a Cat B was because we only had 4 or 5 lifers, as in Cat A lifers. So they could have been moved to Long Lartin, etc. So we weren't in need of those extra measures. Well, actually, yes, we were, because we still get the same prisoners that we did back then. They could be in that prison for 2 or 3 years, waiting for their sentencing. Yeah. So we still had those sort of prisoners that we had when we were Cat A, but with none of the security, minimising the staff and minimising everything for the prisoners.
And how long had you been in the job when that happened then?
4 years.
Right.
So I was started in 2000.
Yeah.
And in 2004, when I became an officer, that's when I seen it start to go downhill.
Yeah. Right. So, well, pick it up from from 2004 then, when you became an officer, because I remember you saying while we was off air that it was a job that you look forward to. You know, you mix well with people, as you said, with being working with the general public. There's nothing as strange as the general public, so if you can talk and deal with the general public, you've got a chance.
All the strange to work in these places. But the one thing I was sort of told, because I am known for my laugh, was that after 6 months of walking through that gate, my laugh wouldn't exist. I proved them wrong, obviously, but that was the sort of attitude, that it would be taken away. I wouldn't be this happy person. Obviously, eventually they did do that to me, but when I applied to become an officer, they started to centralise a lot of things like personnel. So, you weren't able to talk to HR unless you went straight to headquarters, and then trying to get an answer out of anybody was a nightmare. So I went to New Old Rebel for my training. At the time, as I said, it was really, really stringent. The JSACs, the tests, etc. And also with the training, even to the fact that you have to walk round in twos in uniform at all times. Now, I believe they are actually teaching adults to inform on their colleagues. Now, as far as I'm concerned, where is the safe practices in this? Yes, I understand about corruption, which I should tell you all about, but I also understand colleagues being there for each other in that sort of work situation. You have to be able to trust the people you're working with. To have a new recruit walk the landings and basically not concentrate on what they're supposed to be doing, but looking at other officers and seeing what they're doing and reporting it, to me, that's not a safe working environment. It would be so easy conditioning them. To have this situation as the prison system is now, after the voluntary exit departure scheme, it is appalling, absolutely appalling. They're employing people who have been found with drugs at the training units, whereas we were told if we were seen at a uniform at the training units, that would be enough to be sacked. So, and, this isn't happening. They're allowing people with less than what was requested originally, qualification-wise, they're allowing them to come through. My point...
Sorry, Teena, for jumping in, but that seems to be the standard across the public sector. They seem to have lowered the standards for everything. If more and more people can't get in, that's discrimination. If everybody can't get in, type thing. So they've lowered the standards that much that pretty much anybody that pretty much anybody that can read or write and can get in.
But, you say that across the board with all the public services. The difference being, in the prison service, we are classed as the Secret Service. We are never included when they talk about the police, when they talk about the NHS, when they talk about the fire service. We are never mentioned. And yet we deal with it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, as far as I'm concerned, when I started, the officers on the landings had been ex-services. They were guys that had been in the job 30 years. They'd seen the changes, they'd seen everything else come and go. But we had experience, we had knowledge, and we had approachability, because these people that were walking the landings back then had experience of prisoners and the prison system. We had union reps who were willing to fight back then. When just before the beds actually got rolled out. At H.M.P. Bristol, we, as most people who work in prisons will know, governors change regularly. And when they change, they like to bring in their own way of working. Whether this adheres to the actual prison or the staff, doesn't make a difference. They just like to put their own stamp on things. We had a chap called Kenny Brown, who used to work at Bristol as a PO and wasn't taken favourably then, and was known as a bully even then. He came back to Bristol as a #1 governor from headquarters, and allegedly his whole remit was to sell us these new terms and conditions, because he stated that this new terms and conditions he would be able to sell to Bristol because he had worked at Bristol, so he thought he still had friends at Bristol, and those friends were promoted and in a clique, and this guy tried to sell it to us. Obviously working to 68, no gratuity on the pension's changing, our wages going down by 10,000 a year, etc., etc. We, as staff, walk into a situation every day that could end our life. I know other services do too, but with us, it is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I've had policemen ask me, how can you do that? How can you do that job? We arrest them, but then that's the last we see of them. You see them every day. So you can't just walk off a landing and take a break when it gets too much. Unfortunately.
Sorry, Teena. I'm sorry to interrupt. I've just noticed that, like, you know, a lot of probably half the people that are watching at the moment weren't here at the very start. So I just want to do a quick recap. We're talking to Teena Buckler, who is a prison officer, whistleblower, and she's just been telling us her story. She was a part of a team called Carrot, which was an incentive for prisoners, you know, with programs and things to help them to try not to reoffend. Now, and that was caught in 2004, I think you said, when a government came in, and that seems to me to be. I know people will say, well, they probably did it to save money, but they're not saving any money actually anyway, because what they're doing is the people that are in prison are then using that time to learn other skills. You know, it's like a criminals' universities type thing. But I suppose that's what the prisons want, especially with the advent of private prisons. They want repeat customers, I suppose. It's a bit like, you know, when people say it's a holiday camp.
That's what they call them, is prolific offenders. And there was a system in place that had a dedicated team for prolific offenders that was engaged with the police and the public sector, and that was to try and stop the prolific offenders coming back, to find a way for them to break the cycle. None of that exists now. So there's no communication between the police and the prisons like there used to be through the Carrots and the prolific offenders and probation. As I said, Carrots wasn't cut in 2004. I started as an officer in 2004, and this is when things started to go downhill. But Carrots was still there at the time. But there's no drug strategy in place. There's nothing like that for them now. And especially, you know, with these synthetic drugs at the moment, the safety of all prisoners and staff are at risk. The one thing that I am really, really fighting for is the fact that all these things that go on with prisoners' deaths through whatever, drugs, mental health, you know, whatever reasons, what about staff deaths? I know myself, through the Freedom of Information Act, and through the Guardian and the Times that the Ministry of Justice have admitted they do not have any statistics whatsoever on prison officers committing suicide. Now, they have it for prisoners, they have everything for prisoners, and in statistic-wise, but they don't have it for officers. Why? Because they know that if it had come out how many officers commit suicide or attempt to commit suicide through being bullied, intimidated, harassed by senior management, then questions will be asked, which is why my story has gone public, because I took a fatal overdose due to being bullied. And I also know at the same time a lady officer from H.M.P. Cardiff took her own life through bullying by the senior management team. Her tribunal was upheld because she died, so there was no one to fight them. So going back, basically, I loved my job, absolutely thrived on my job. As I am now is how I was then. You know, I'd have a laugh, a banter, a joke. I'd never walk away from confrontation. I'd try and talk to them. I was an act assessor, which was like basically when prisoners came in, if they stated they had mental health problems or they felt suicidal, an act assessor would go and assess the risk. We had a mental health team when I first started, so we were able to refer them. Now we don't have any mental health teams whatsoever. They were removed. So basically in the beginning, all of these opportunities, all of these groups set up for prisoners for rehabilitation, were all working towards them not coming back. None of that exists now. And they wonder why the prison is overpopulated to an extent of over 10,000 from the Ministry of Justice's definition.
Well, the American prisons, when they privatised the American prison system, Correction Corps signed 95% guaranteed occupancy rate contract with the federal government. So their jails were guaranteed to be 95% full at all times, which, that obviously is not aimed at rehabilitation or anything like that. It's aimed at more people being in prison for longer periods, more of this mythical money type thing. So, it's a dangerous thing when you see the privatisation of all across the public sector. But from when you see the American models, and I always use the guide that if America sneezes, we normally catch a cold about 8 to 10 years later. So we've got to start looking at the bigger picture of what's going on here.
But this started with the privatisation of the probation service. That really was...
When did that happen? When did the probation service become privatised?
I'm not 100% sure on the year. I believe it was 2008, maybe 2009. And 2009 was when H.M.P. Liverpool walked out due to bullying, intimidation, harassment, complaints not being followed through, all by senior management. At that time, the Director General, Martin Neri, brought out a new prison service order. Now, prison service orders are meant to be done by the government and adhered to. Prison service instructions are for the governor of that prison to, as guidelines. But prison service orders are binding. Now, in my case, and with the H.M.P. Liverpool and Director General Martin Neri stating that equality, new PSO for raising grievances against senior management, etc. Now, I have copies of all of this, and it's been breached over and over and over towards myself and towards many, many, many others. I know that when Kenny Brown joined with his remit of selling this new terms and conditions, and he failed at Bristol and then across the board, he obviously was left with egg on his face because he'd guaranteed he could sell it. This then started the hacking of computers. I know for a fact he'd warned his colleagues and friends to clear their computers of any jokey emails, any, vaguely funny emails that were nothing to do with work. Kenny Brown then had 99 staff up on disciplinaries. Eventually, it came to nothing bar sacking 2 members of staff. One was a security governor who had so much on Kenny Brown. The other one was an OSG who used to sell DVDs to Kenny Brown. And a lot of the
Are you looking at me and laughing? Is that what's making you laugh?
Well, she's trying to read that what you posted.
Sorry about that. But basically what happened, he'd had egg on his face, didn't get a bonus obviously, and so he realised he couldn't bully us into agreeing, so he started taking small groups of us into the chapel and asking us why we wouldn't go with it, why we wouldn't, what gain was there for us as staff? There was none. So obviously it was rejected at that time, and this just goes to show how members do not matter to the union or a government, because it still got rolled out. My situation was not to do with Eds. It was basically I was in the gate, and Governor Brown and his PA, who was previously a post clerk, and became his PA with no internal recruitment whatsoever.
Dudes, I've pressed wrong button and fucking turned it off. I've pressed.
Love you, knobhead. How long have we been off?
Just.
This is going to be a part 2, yeah?
Yeah.
We've got 40 minutes.
Oh, God.
Andy?
Right, I don't know how to turn it back on.
Oh, no.
They'll all be thinking the government's cut us off.
Yeah. Don't think we've been shut down.
It just says off air. Hang on. Let me leave it. Just wait there. I'll leave it and I'll come back. Hang on. So there we go. I've sent the link to Andy, to Paul, and to Teena as well. So I really do apologise for this. It's just I was just farting about. And I hit stop broadcast by accident. I do apologise for that. We've got 10 viewers back on now. I'm hoping we're going to get Webby very soon. Let me see if he's there. And we've got one going anyway, so there's 13 of us, and you're listening to Raconteurs News. I'm sorry about that. We've got Teena Buckler on with us, so we did have Teena Buckler on with us. we did have Teena Buckler on with us. Unfortunately, I pressed the stop broadcasting button, and I've only had one beer as well, and it's only a bud, so it's not like I'm like I'm pissed her out. But Webby, you're back, mate. I'm sorry about that. Are you all right? Are you okay? That's the main thing.
I'm fine. This just never happened when Andy was here. It's just got me all shaky.
I know. It's an absolute ball
I
ache.
can't promise I'll get Teena over here though.
Have you sent her a message?
I've given her the link, but it took her ages to get onto this. She said she doesn't do technology, but she's managed to get Chrome and everything. Got her online, and now I'm hoping to get her back.
Oh God. It's me. What a ball ache. I do apologise to everybody. I don't know what I was doing. I was just sort of daydreaming and farting and going around while she was talking. And as it's gone across the stop broadcasting button, my fingers just clicked it. I don't know why. It must be. I think it might be the spirit of Andy trying to show me that it's not as easy as we always make it out to be. So yeah, Andy, I agree with you completely. It isn't as easy. Hopefully we'll get Teena back very soon. We're back up to 19 people have joined us, so let's just let word get round. If what are we going to do? Are we're both technically beavering away here. You're trying to get Teena Buckler back on, and I'm trying to ramble my way through, and as soon as we get her back on, what I'll do is I'll go to Facebook and I'll spread the word. In fact, I could spread the word on the old one, I think, perhaps, if I knew where it were. So I'm not going to press any more buttons that might cause some inactivity on our part. There's enough anyway in a show.
She's seen it. Fingers crossed. We'll get her back in a sec.
Oh, excellent. Well, I really hope we do, because I were enjoying that. And then once we get her back on, I'll go round and I'll go to all the different places and post up the new link for it. So there she is.
Right?
Hey, sorry about that, Teena. It was my fault. It was my fault. I was farting about. I was farting about with my mouse, and it went across the stop.
Euphemism.
What are you doing?
Are you playing with your mouth? Mouse, is that a euphemism or what?
Well, yeah. It may well be, yeah. We're playing with my mouse. I hit the stop broadcast button by accident completely, and I totally panicked. And so I've set up a new live event, and hopefully people will be able to get it. We've got about half of the people that were on before that have joined us on this one. So word is getting about. So hopefully catastrophe can be averted completely. God, Jesus H Christ. Outrageous. So where were we? Shall we continue?
Right then. What I'll do is I'll just run through the basics of what happened with me. I was in the Gate Lodge trying to get a reliance van through. Kenny Brown walking through with his PA through the gates. Now, we have rolling gates, obviously, so you're trapped in what they call the lock. And they're bulletproof glass, so you have to sort of raise your voice to be able to talk to somebody in there if you're not on the actual controls. He proceeded to shout at me to let him through the doors. I wasn't on the ped, as they call it, to do the doors. I was trying to get a reliance through, and I stated this. He then told me to get out of the gate as he was walking through, which I did. He then verbally had me up against the wall, considering this man's over 6 foot and I'm 5 foot, shouting and screaming in my face that I was extremely unprofessional. I shouldn't be doing that in the gate, and saying he'd had so many complaints about my attitude, this, that and the other, just shouting and screaming. I was crying because I had no idea what I'd done. I put my hands, splayed my hands, Governor,
Was that the
Can you
first encounter with him, that, Teena?
Sorry?
Was that your first encounter with him?
No.
Had it built up? Had he been...
No, it came out of nowhere.
Right.
All I can think of, and this is going to not go down very well, but all I can think of is, as I was a part-time person, you don't get to see everybody that comes in and out of the prison because you've got so many civilians, officers, etc., etc. I was on a late shift in the gate, and Kenny Brown phoned me and stated if Jessica, which is his PA, came to the window to let her know that he'd gone on. So, fine, not a problem. This woman came in from outside of the prison into the gate and said, give me the phone. Now, I didn't know her from Adam, and I basically asked, can I ask who you are? And she said, oh, I'm Jessica. And I said, oh, right, okay, sorry. I said, Governor Brown asked me to let you know that he's gone. What I didn't know, apparently, was that she was outside on a wall waiting for him for 3/4 of an hour. Well, that's not my problem. It's not my job or anything else. And from then, every time they were together and they seen me, I could see her looking at me, whatever. So it was obviously an ego thing that I didn't recognise her. That's all I can assume where it came from. And because I was extremely rules and regs. So he proceeded to shout at me, scream at me. As I stated, I was crying. It was right in front of the key area where staff were walking through and were witnessing this. Every time I tried to ask what I'd done wrong, he shouted, I'm the #1 governor. You will listen while I'm talking. And then I said to him, Governor, you shouldn't be doing this here. So he then stated, get up to my office. I asked, I beg your pardon. He said, I order you to get up to my office. Now, I'm still crying, but I still believe in the hierarchy, etc. So I go upstairs into his reception office, pick up the phone. And he stated, what are you doing? I said, I'm getting a Mackenzie friend, which can be anybody that you want in to support you in a meeting. You are allowed to refuse to attend the meeting unless you got a Mackenzie friend. And I knew all this. And I stated it, and I said, Kenny, I've been here 11 years. Please don't tell me I can't have a Mackenzie friend. He then proceeded to take the phone out of my hand and ordered me in his office. He then continued to berate me. I asked why I'd had no verbal warning, no written warning, about all that he was saying about my attitude and my unprofessionalism. First I'd ever heard of it. Every annual review I've had achieved, good work, etc. And I knew I was good at my job. So it got to the end of him shouting and screaming at me, and I told him I would be taking it further, to which he replied, carry on. I've had so many complaints against me, and nothing will get done. And from then, for 3 years solid, I had governors walking past saying prison service doesn't know you were living, being called in for talking too long to a prisoner, for wearing lipstick. What are you wearing lipstick for today? Now, you've got to imagine, I worked 5 days out of a 14-day period. It wasn't just one person. They might have thought, oh, well, I've just said that one comment to her. It was the senior management team and the union reps all had been temporarily promoted. So there was a conflict.
What year are we on here, Teena? What year are we at now?
This actually happened in December 2009.
Right.
Which is when everything started going downhill big time.
Yeah.
So this Kenny Brown, I put in a grievance with the help of Bob Mason, who I have to say I respect completely. he resigned from the union as secretary when Kenny Brown joined Bristol Prison. So he wasn't temporarily promoted or anything else. The other POA rep that would have argued my case was moved to H.M.P. Dayhill. So Bob Mason helped me immensely. I did a grievance and a record of events. Different governors pulling me into their offices, saying, you won't have a leg to stand on if you try and take this any further. You know, prison service doesn't owe you a wage. Maybe because you're having a hysterectomy, you're oversensitive. I actually ended up in hospital almost dying through being ulcerated from the top of my intestine through to my bowel due to stress. The consultant walked in my room. Now, I could have died any time within 8 days if any of those ulcers had burst. My line governor at the time, Neil Tells, he was security governor, had already abused me verbally, came to the hospital without telling the prison that he was coming, was in my room when the consultant asked if I'd been under any extreme stress, to which I replied, yes, I have, Neil, haven't I? When the consultant left, this Neil Tells then stated he would deal with my sick, not HR, take as long as I needed, and not to worry about anything. Now, it's not even on my record. So, you know, that alone says a lot. I then went back and then obviously had an hysterectomy, to which I was apparently oversensitive because I was a female and having a hysterectomy, irrelevant of the fact I was going through this stress and coming home crying every day. Now, as a single mum, my youngest son was 11 when all this started, and I was coming home crying. Now, he's always had a strong, independent, happy mum. He's never seen me cry over anything. My son was in the first year of his senior school and broke down and ended up having to have mentoring and counselling for the next 3 years whilst I was being bullied, because he couldn't cope with seeing me crying all the time, being scared to go back to work, being scared to what I was going to get pulled in for, and everything else. And that I just wasn't getting listened to. I tried my line manager, who was a POA rep, who had been promoted. He wouldn't reply to my emails. When I asked by email why, he ended up giving in and stating he would meet me. I asked by email the POA reps if someone could attend with me. Got no acknowledgement, no reply. So one of the gym officers came with me to support me. The first sentence out of his mouth was, my line manager, not interested, you're up against two nastiest bastards in the prison service. He said, not interested, you know, you're as bad as whatever, blah, blah, blah. And it was only down to the fact that this gym officer stood up for me and said, you have to listen to Teena, you're a line manager, and everything else, that John Chapman then actually listened to my side of the incident with Governor Brown. He then confirmed my story was almost identical to Kenny Brown's, except for Kenny Brown stated I was shouting at him. Well, I have evidence that states otherwise, that people saw me crying, that people saw him shouting, etc. So I have evidence. Then I got my son to write an impact statement from when he was 11, and I would just like to read this out to you, because it means how it just goes to show how the job will affect your whole life, because it takes up your whole life. Bear with me, I do apologise. I'll go back to that. Sorry.
We're just coming up to 8 o'clock anyway, aren't we, Jason? So, we normally take a break about now. So, have you got a tune for us, mate?
I have my old mucker. It's one of Reef's tunes, so that we don't get butt fucked by Google and told that nobody can see this. It has happened before. I mean, there's one I've been trying. It was the Pete Danby interview, and it's been blocked worldwide on YouTube because there was some copyrighted stuff in the middle. Now I've been trying my damnedest, and I think I've just about come up with a way to get it online, so and get it edited, because it's just but YouTube don't want you to have your videos back. They don't want you to be able to edit them and do things with. So yeah. But
is it like pressing a stop button?
Yeah. So yes, it's something like that, Webby. Yes, thank you very much. All right, so we're going to have a record. We'll be back after in 3 minutes and 45 seconds, and it's Heath.
Oh, I can get that in a minute.
In the morning, when I wake up, all I want is marijuana. In the evening, when I'm thinking, all I want is marijuana. If you look in my eyes, you will see what I've done. Every minute, every hour of every day. But life is like a smoke. In the end, I'm gonna choke. So all I do is live my life from day to day.
Oh my God, you know you better watch yourself, because I know you're wicked and I wanna. Cause I'm telling you, cause you know the one I said, take off your way, you let me see you do the run. Run and the one that they claim and the one that cause I know you cannot beat me now, what you wanna do. Cause I'm about to break it down, me, cause that's all that, cause you know you cannot trade me now, that you wanna. Give it the back of the night, because I'm telling you, what bar, cause I cannot wanna. Because you know you like the way I put up, cause I'm telling you, your fools what I put up, and in a mercy. Now what you wanna do, and in a mercy. Now what you wanna do, and in a mercy. Now what you wanna do, and in a mercy.
If you look in my eyes, you will see what I've done. Every minute, every hour of every day. But life is like a smoke. In the end, I'm gonna choke. So all I do is live my life from day to day. You got to lick it, stick it, bend it, crease it, stack it, burn it, pack it, roll it, poke it, roach it, smoke it, then you pass it to me. You got to lick it, stick it, bend it, crease it, stack it, burn it, pack it, roll it, poke it, roach it, smoke it, then you pass it to me.
Come on, baby girl, let's get it going on. I'ma hit the highway and do it my way. It ain't a game, girl, so I don't play games. I keep it up straight, like up in your face. So make your mind up, cause life is too short. I got the best on, boy, put your belt on. Stop acting all cool like Kanye West. Boy, you be riding through the wire, and the camera get on fire. You don't want that, no, I don't want that, no. This goes out to pimps and chicks, so slow. Hit the backseat when you're doing the licking, kissing, squeezing. Do the damn thing, man.
And welcome back to Raconteurs News number 225, part 2, because of an error that occurred that had nothing to do with me. It was, I think Andy was the guy who trained me up on this, so he's vicariously liable for that intermission there. So if anybody wants, I know he's in the chat room, so if you want to bully him, by all means. We encourage chat room bullying, don't we? On especially on Andy. It's because he just won't. Nothing to get under his skin. I don't think, not a single thing. Just have a go at Andy. It was his fault. He was my trainer. Right. Okay. Well, we've got our usual co-host Paul Webster. We're going to have to start calling you something else than co-host, aren't we? I'm going to have to call you something different, because our other host will call you. Our other host, Paul Webster. To the roast over there, over in Lancashire. If you want Yorkshire, you get me. If you want Lancashire, you get our Paul. We get on. This is the War of the Roses, at peace. Me and you, we're at peace.
Building bridges.
Of course, I mean, you've managed to get Super Leeds to listen to you, so that's got to be somewhere in there somewhere. Anyway, our guest tonight is Teena Buckler. She's a whistleblower for H.M.P. Now, I've got to be honest. After I'd turned I'd accidentally turned everything off, and we weren't broadcasting, and I was fizzling around to get and flapping and everything. After that, I've been trying to get the links out there as well, so I've not really been paying much attention, and that's probably something that a radio presenter shouldn't say. In fact, Rich Allen probably go, "I know that's something a radio presenter shouldn't say."
Welsh?
Yes, he's Welsh. He's definitely Welsh. Yeah, I've not really been listening intently as I should have been, and I've been looking in the chat room and things like that. So, Webby, I'm looking to you to take over from here, mate.
Well, we're just basically up to the point where Teena was explaining that the bullying that was now affecting her and her personality, when she was going home, she was sitting down and crying, and her sons hadn't seen her cry. Son had just started high school, and now he'd experienced that, and he was breaking down at school and was now under mentoring and counselling because of what his mum was going through. And you had something that he'd written, didn't you, Tina?
When he was 11, I asked him to write how he felt, because this is when it all started. And this is when he broke down in senior school. And he said, "My name is Teena Buckler and I'm 11. My mum has not been sleeping when she has to go into work the next day. This has been since my mum came home from work really upset because her big boss shouted at her before Christmas. I've been crying at school because I'm worried about my mum. He's getting really ill, worrying about going to work. My mum came home upset again last week. I have never seen my mum like this. And I now have a mentor at school as I'm so worried about my mum. As you can imagine, it completely destroyed me as a single mum, knowing I'd always been able to provide and look after my sons and be independent. When he was 14, when I took a fatal overdose due to the bullying, this is when he was 14, and it says, "I am Teena Buckler, my mum is Teena Buckler. I would like to state how my mum coming home stressed and crying all of the time has affected our life at home. I've asked my mum to quit her job, even though I know how hard she has worked. It has affected my mum's health, and I don't want to lose my mum. I feel devastated that my mum felt so under pressure, she felt like she couldn't go on. I myself have to see a counsellor at school because I'm worried about my mum all the time." So it just goes to show how one person's ego resulting in bullying, harassment, intimidation can affect your whole life.
It goes to show how your job can affect your life, and how the outside life can also affect the job. And, that goes for every job, but particularly one where you've got a management team that are implementing massive sweeping changes,
Yes.
and then seem to have this kind of attitude, because like I said, I've heard these stories are typical through the public sector. Just when they start all these changes, all new people come in and they bring in their new people, and they start changes from then onwards, because you said, where you put it, is where you put the stamp on it. But what I noticed, Teena, in the 10 years that I've been involved in what I've been, I've said to you, Nottingham down south, from Nottingham downwards, they've really been hard. They've really...
They've 3-4 prisons down south here. Why? When we were overcrowded, for a start. Also, because, like I said, this went on for 3 years on and off, and it was the whole senior management and the promoted POA reps, etc. Now, it got to the stage, I was walking around with a notepad, so I was classed as dangerous, so people avoided me. Even colleagues who I'd worked well with previously for all those years, I was classed as dangerous because I was writing everything down. I had to, because I was getting veiled threats, I was getting harassed all the time. So I still didn't do anything wrong. I still had 3 annual achieved reports during the time I was being bullied. I still got emails from senior managers stating on my good work practice and all my effort, thanking me. So I must have been really terrible to be bullied like this. But it got to the stage I just couldn't go on. I really could not go on. And I took a fatal overdose, basically. I died, and they resuscitated me in the ambulance. But I had a severe breakdown resulting from the overdose, etc., and the bullying, that I was never able to step foot inside H.M.P. Bristol again. During this time, I was under the mental health team, and I had the NHS job retention manager, Danny Hill. Now, Danny Hill is a professional body who is employed by the NHS under the mental health team to ensure that I can get back to work. So he works like a mediator between staff and management. So basically, he was there to support me under the Mental Health Act to enable myself to get back to work. He wrote a letter to the then governor, who had, as Kenny Brown had got moved on to H.M.P. Wandsworth as number 1. So it's like a promotion. Then we had a female governor come, who I didn't realise at the time, but her husband was under investigation. He's a governor at another prison, and he was under investigation because his senior management team had bullied a female officer into committing suicide at the same time that I tried to. So I did ask to see her before I took the overdose. From the time she started, she refused to see me. Kept putting me back to the governors that were bullying me. Atos stated I needed a stress assessment in work. That was August 2012. No one knew where it was, no one knew what it was, no one was trained for it. September 2012, Atos stated and sent the link to my employers that I needed a stress assessment. I took my overdose October the same year, because no stress assessment had been put in place, no concessions, nothing. And that's when I took the overdose. Now, I was still employed until May 2013. And during this time, this is when I realised how corrupt the system was. I am not a solicitor, I'm not a union rep, but I've got over 300 pages worth of evidence of breaches of prison service orders, what they breached, when they breached, etc. I sent a copy to POA headquarters, who stated they didn't receive them. So the Southwest Area Union rep, John Hancock, who was absolutely awesome, took it physically to POA headquarters. Now, I believed POA headquarters to be a secure, confidential place. When the solicitors received my information, all they received was 13 pieces of my 300-page file. Who tampered with it? Who split it? It's supposed to be a confidential document. When I asked the POA, Glyn Travis stated he could not tell me, he could not answer that. He could not answer why it had been tampered with. He couldn't answer why only 13 pieces got sent to solicitors. Couldn't answer it.
I bet he couldn't.
Exactly. So when I did get through to the solicitors, Julie Brodie stated it was personal injury case. It then got sent to Plymouth Thompson's solicitors, who the woman I spoke to stated she didn't want to talk to me, she didn't want to meet me, she didn't want to get involved. And I stated, well, as a personal injury solicitor, surely you need to be involved. And, how can I explain my file to you if you're not willing to speak to me? So I asked the POA why this personal injury solicitor did not want to get involved with me. So they then referred me to a Nicholas Seymour in Plymouth, who agreed to come to Bristol to meet me with my evidence. The meeting took place, and it was myself, it was the Southwest Area Union rep, John Hancock, and the NHS Job Retention Manager, Danny Hill. Now, considering the prison service had not acknowledged Danny Hill after he contacted them to discuss my case and to get me back to work, they did not even acknowledge him. He's a professional body. And the solicitor stated in front of them both that my case would never go to court because it would set a precedent. And there's no way the prison service would allow that. So the union rep stated, hang on a minute, what are you saying? You are saying that members of staff can be treated any way management likes with no repercussions. And the solicitor blatantly said yes. Unless you can prove you're in fear of your life, day to day, then yes. As you can imagine, I was completely devastated. I asked for my documentation back. That's when I found out they'd only been sent 13 pieces. So then I appealed. It went to the NEC, which I now know is owned by the POA. Why do they send appeals to the NEC when the POA have already made their decisions? I do not know. But it went to the NEC, and the NEC actually told Thompson's to relook at my whole evidence, not just 13 pieces, which they did. And I was still told I have a letter stating that the NEC agreed that my treatment by my employer was unwarranted and unjustified. And then Glyn Travis states, but we've only got so much funding, so we can't go ahead. You don't fit our criteria. Who does them? I paid my subs 13 years. I now know they work for the system and not for the members. I went all the way up to Chris Grayling and Michael Spur. Chris Grayling, I sent my file to his constituency office to ensure that he got it. I've got track signatures. They did receive it. No acknowledgement. I went to my MP, Charlotte Leslie, who did approach NOMS on my behalf and was told that I hadn't put a grievance in. If you can, please look on my Facebook group called Bullied to the Brink, which has all the evidence there. And statements. So now, to me, the NEC have agreed my treatment was unwarranted and unjustified. They made me go on medical retirement because my union rep stated we could go for constructive dismissal. Glyn Travis told John Hancock on the day, tell her to take medical retirement, otherwise she won't get anything. They done that because the only thing you can't fight back on is medical retirement. So I continued to fight and took it to the MP as stated. Michael Spur turned around and said, no, everything was done correctly, irrelevant of the fact that occupational health was breached twice, irrelevant of the fact that the governor at the time asked to meet me away from the prison, just me and her, whilst I was under a culpability hearing, all breaches of my staff care and welfare and the PSO 8010. So I just want to clarify a few things on what I've said with my research. This comes from The Guardian and The Times, and it was in July 2018 that this came out. Now, I will completely be honest, I feel for the prisoners as well as staff. They've lost any opportunity to break the cycles due to the cuts, due to no staff, due to no experience.
Due to no money in a debt-based economy.
Basically, we have the British prison system has the highest population of Europe, and that's from the European Union. Between 2009,
there's a few Europeans in that system, though.
Right. Between 2009 and 2016, staff fell by more than a quarter. Well, we know why. Because they still rolled out the new terms and conditions that every member of the POA refused. So would somebody from the POA please like to tell me that they actually fight for their members and not the system? We all voted no. It still got rolled out. And to get rid of all the staff on the old terms and conditions, they brought in the voluntary exit departure scheme, or medical inefficiency, not capable of doing your job, being bullied, harassed and intimidated at the job. The ones that are still there are the ones that are now being targeted by senior management. The Ministry of Justice, like I stated, prisoners' deaths. You know, they have records of everything, of what they died from, whether it was synthetic drugs, suicide, whatever. Now, 70% of themselves that killed themselves were identified as having mental health problems. As I stated, we have no mental health teams in prisons. Now, the actual Prison and Probation Ombudsman report that came out for this stated that the lack of communication between staff, mental health services and prisoners was a main cause. No, it's not. It's because you took all the implementation away to enable these prisoners and staff. So these are reports that have come out, and this is by Nigel Newcomen, and he's the president.
It's almost like saying fix that car, but you're not having any spanners or tools, isn't it?
Yes, and it states he is the Prison and Probation Ombudsman chap, and he said in his 2016-17 report, the system was still very much in crisis. The population up to this July was 86,072. Ministry of Justice states that the prison service cannot hold more than 76,000. So it's become overcrowded and a risk to staff and prisoners. And this is a report by the Prison and Probation Ombudsman. Most recent figures show that 80% of prisons are overcrowded. The UK, the number of frontline prison officers fell by a quarter. The 2,500 that they've stated that they will now employ, these are the people that are being told to report on their colleagues before they've even started in a job. The decline in staff numbers coincided with surge in assaults and drugs. There are now 5 times more prisoners than officers, and many are still leaving. The government has said that the extra 2,500 prison officers are being recruited with financial incentives to stay in their jobs. Why didn't they just keep the staff they had with the experience, the knowledge, and the capabilities, instead of getting rid of us all, whichever way they could, to save money? Now they are seeing the cost. And unfortunately, it's the staff and the prisoners that are suffering.
Yeah. It's the same with every service. You see it with the patients in hospitals, they're queuing up in corridors. You know, it's getting ridiculous. Police stations are all shut. Some are turning into off licenses and stuff like that. There's, you know, all these cuts are affecting people's lives.
Police station, Trinity, because it's not cost effective.
Exactly. Everything's shut. I think my station's open Tuesdays and Thursdays between 6 and 9.
Because that's when I'm after.
Yeah. But normally the criminals normally leave it till just after 9 o'clock. You know.
But I'd like to really state as well, because I know people say, why join a service like the prison service? Yeah. It was nothing to do with the prisoners. Nothing to do with the prisoners. It was all to do with senior management, unregulated, POA, union. It's all corrupt, unfortunately. And what chance did I stand of winning my case when ex-union actually employed staff lose their cases? So what hope is there for anyone? You know, they say about staff care and welfare. Where is it? Is there an care and welfare line anymore? You know, it's the reason I've gone public is because officers are still taking their lives. Officers are still getting to the stage of attempting to depression, anxiety. I've been diagnosed with PTSD, anxiety, depression, all work related. My doctor was even willing to stand up in court to say how he's seen them destroy me over a 3-year period, and the hospital visits, etc., due to the stress. Unfortunately, there's still so many officers and staff out there that are suffering. I myself have been contacted by quite a few staff currently undergoing excuse me, investigations, etc., into nonsensical issues, but basically because they're on the old terms and conditions. And what I'd really like to get across is that the Ministry of Justice does not care about H.M.P staff, Her Majesties prison. Where's the comeback? Who takes responsibility? None of them.
Yeah, I agree. I can't argue with you. And again, it comes down to that old argument. Everything that you talked about, Teena, all the suffering,
and
your children, your family life, other people that are contacted you. I know you said you've been speaking to people who,
gremlins when they were
had intentions of doing things to themselves.
What we call
Gizmo.
and
This affects so much of life, and people are saying it's about figures, it's talking about balance sheets, and they're talking about money.
I don't know where it's coming from. It just keeps doing it. It's
Talking about
really
the money
faint.
that doesn't
It keeps doing
exist.
it.
It's absolutely bonkers what we are accepting
Thank you.
as answers
Well
from
done.
this so-called government. Austerity means it's rubbish. It's absolute rubbish.
And the thing is, what really frustrates me
It's doing it.
is we are a public service, same as the police, same as fire service, etc., etc.
But they're in the same boat. I mean, I know they put us all,
cuts and everything else. And this
they
is
put us
what
all in a similar position, didn't they? Quite a few years back, and because they weren't going to touch pensions of the police and that, they didn't want to do anything or rock the boat. Now they're in the same boat.
And this is what I'm trying to get across. It's all the public services that generations of us have put into are being decimated. How do they expect us to help
Shall I throw her a curveball?
in whatever way
I'll say.
if there's no staff? If it's destroying the staff's lives, whether they be a nurse, whether they be a policeman.
Than United.
The stress and the accumulation of senior management, whether police, anywhere else, and the bullying tactics, just to get staff to do what is stuff that we are unable to facilitate.
There's a sickness in society, isn't there?
I believe myself, personally, that we need a change from the top down. We need people to answer to the allegations over the last 10 years where staff have took their lives, attempted to, where they've had to go under mental health. And I totally believe that these union, POA, NEC, government, prison probation, because I actually wrote to the Prison and Probation Ombudsman in 2011 to tell them how corrupt Bristol Prison was, nepotism, how jobs were made for friends, and yet a deputy governor was told his job was not viable. And he stated to me as he walked out, he didn't believe in the Sergeant Taliban before, but he does now.
On YouTube
because he was basically told to leave there and then. That his job wasn't viable as a deputy governor because he was the staff governor. He fought for the staff. And that was under Kenny Brown. And apparently Kenny Brown is now the area manager of Wales. So he just gets promoted and promoted and promoted. Doesn't matter how many people he decimates on the way.
Teena, have you found from other people that contacted you that like from what you make out, this governor of yours is a bit of a hatchet man? So the more that he could hatchet, the better promotion that he got. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
So that is exactly the same thing that's happened in the police now. The fire service as well. I mean, I always remember a friend of mine telling me a fireman at the Manchester bombing being told they had to sit and watch it unfold on Sky TV when they wanted to respond. And because of all the cuts, there wouldn't have been anybody to answer anything else in Manchester. And this is, people can see that this is now coming to fruition. We were just talking earlier about the youth of today. Some of the city's kids, the inner cities, the kids are feral.
Well, they are.
Feral. There's no consequences to anything.
Guidelines. There's no restrictions on them.
Lad's just been stabbed today at Lidl in London.
Yeah.
There's absolutely lawlessness.
But to be honest, a lot of the prisoners I spoke to came back because they couldn't cope with life outside. They came back because they needed the discipline.
But there's nothing for them outside.
Yeah,
you look at the homeless people, it's a mess.
Exactly. And, this is why I eventually want to get somebody from each service to come with me to Downing Street and say, It's our country. What are you doing to our public services? This is why we pay our national insurance. What are we paying for?
Have you made those connections, Teena? Have you spoke to the fire? I know you spoke with John Wedger. I know you've done an interview with John, and we've had John on the show a couple of times telling us about the work he's been doing. Have you managed to speak to the fire or the nurses? Or, I know you said prison staff, but...
Yeah, not as yet, because obviously I've been doing research on my stuff and everything else. But on my group, it's very hard because obviously a lot of people are still currently working in service, and so they can't comment on a lot of things. So I asked them to private message me, and somebody did mention, this is as bad in the NHS as well. So I will contact that person and see if they are able to go forward. But I will really, really emphatically state, do not pay to the POA, because they do not work for you. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying every single rep is bad or anything else. You've got some really good ones. Unfortunately, it's the headquarter team that they have to get past. And if a Southwest area union rep is shocked at every obstacle that was put in his way and shocked at the turn of events with the solicitor, a basic union rep in a prison isn't going to get any further. So you're putting into an environment that only protects the system, not its members. To state that they didn't have enough funding to fight my case and that I didn't meet the criteria, yet the NEC stated I did.
The unions seem to be the last port of call for a lot of people, though, because individually they don't know what to do. I know teachers who aren't in teachers' unions and they've joined other unions and not this union and that union. They've all got different rules, and it all seems to divide everything. I've said many a times that trade union laws coming down from the government is not for us. No. It's not designed for us. And if you want to enforce the silver bullet, which is the health and safety, you've got to make those decisions individually as men and women. And there's that much fear about not being able to pay for your bills, pay for this, pay for that. And then you're saying that new staff are coming in, so straight away the experienced staff, because I know staff from the police, from all kinds of, even warehouses, experienced people in these workplaces are always suspicious about new people coming in. But to hear stories like management are training people who are coming in to constantly watch other staff.
Exactly.
Staff aren't necessarily up to anything anywhere, but it causes that division because you don't get to talk to people. So therefore, the tricks and all the things that management have done to them that they've learned about, they don't get to pass on to the new staff. So they create that divide, and then before long, it's almost like you've made the cut of staff, you've created a gap, you've filled it with new staff, you get rid of the old staff eventually, and then all the new staff that are coming through are programmed exactly to do what you want them to do.
And I agree with you on that, Paul. I really agree with you on that.
But what do you want to do with it? Because if there's no product at the end of it, what's the point to it? You come into a cul-de-sac, and then you've got to look at a bigger picture of what the government and what the world's bigger picture really has involved for societies. And it doesn't look completely great, I must be honest.
But this is what, to me, the whole system now, with the synthetic drugs, the NHS have told any of their nurses that are within H.M.P, they can't go in a cell for 30 minutes if it's spice related. Now, if that prisoner dies, oh yes, Hail Mary, but God forbid the amount of staff that are being spiced and get sent to hospital, nurses, everything. So if as you say, with the health and safety, there is no health and safety because they'd shut the prisons straight away.
I've been on building sites. When I laboured a couple of times years ago, I've been on building sites where somebody's turned up with an A4 piece of paper and put it down with a foreman and said, shut your site until that's done. And you're straight off, there's no say or anything like that. Yeah, you've got people in your environment, what you're talking about, you've got people that need people to at least cater some needs.
Yeah.
And you're putting people in positions where they do have entitlements. You know, it's not about punishment in your line of work. It's with patients. They do require care, and they require more. Because some patients require more care. They don't require lying in a corridor. They don't require all this, and there's no reason for all this because we keep getting told that there is cuts, and then it's about people in fear of paying bills. You can't pay bills, Teena.
Yeah,
you can't do this. People have got to change their mindset because if they want to make this place better, they've got to stop paying the bills because when they try and pay a promise, it doesn't make the debt anything but worse. It makes the national debt go up. You're not balancing the books.
Yeah, but the thing is, when you are in this sort of situation, you're very isolated. Yeah. You don't think about any sort of pictures. I had to go bankrupt. I had to go to a food bank on Christmas week with my son, which completely devastated me because I'd worked so hard as a single mum for all these years to be resorted to that due to one man's ego, basically. And because I did not have any support, bar John Hancock, once I took the overdose, it was like I'd never existed in the prison. And a lot of staff will find this within most services, that once you leave, you're forgotten. What they don't tend to like to be reminded of is what they've done to you during that time. And it's that acceptance, you know. So many staff now that have left are like, you know, oh yeah, well, I was bullied out, medical inefficiency, but they didn't fight it at the time. I did. And I was told basically I was irrelevant and I didn't meet their criteria. So what does? Before they fight.
Again, you're up against something that is a lot bigger than one person, and there's so many people involved that it affects. You know, as we get again, we talk about all the services, but we talk about people who are doing private jobs, people who are self-employed. Everything's so tight because of this no money malarkey, and it's affecting people's lives, and it's driving people to a despair where people are losing their houses, they're having them taken off them by banks with no authority through a court system that's helping them. Police are backing them up, and then you're being made homeless, and then that's being made illegal, and then the police are arresting them and putting them into an already overpopulated prison system. And it's madness. The world's bonkers, Teena.
And the whole reports as well about the amount of assaults and drugs. What did they expect when they reduced the staff limits?
That it went off.
Well, it makes you think because you'd have to say.
Well, what did it mean?
Well, you'd have to say with that mentality. You'd have to say with that mentality that if they haven't calculated to do it on purpose, then it shows them an absolute massive amount of incompetency. Because I can't imagine that staff didn't go, I think that's going to be a bad idea because.
We all did. Everybody reviewed the new terms and conditions. And yet it's still enforced.
And now, all of a sudden, people have got the terminology, because I've read it in the papers that, now they've realised they've made a mistake. These are people that are meant to be in charge of a government of a country on our behalf, and these people have made a mistake on such a large scale that you're telling me that you having staff contacting you because they don't know what to do, whether they're going to commit suicide or anything, because of trying to do a job that is difficult enough if you had loads of staff
Exactly.
do that job.
Hard enough job as it is without having to worry about other people watching every move you make. You know, you don't have to be corrupt to feel as though you're being watched.
Well, I see it with the police. Well, I've got friends who have been in the police, some who still are, and they've seen how the police change. And the same grassing culture is in with the police, but they seem to be looking for a certain type of copper, a certain type of attitude.
But they also have the IPCC, whereas we have nothing bar the government.
Well, the IPCC for its independence is not that.
Well, but anyway.
What we're saying is everything that you follow, all your procedures. I followed all the civil rules procedures, and even with their own procedures, if they don't like what you're trying to do, which is stand up for yourself, for your own rights, they're just going to shut you down, and that takes numbers, and that's what they're doing, Teena. They're creating such a pot that they're going to force it to explode, and they've got Pied Pipers already in places that they're dancing people to certain tunes. You know, we won't mention certain things. Well, you've got to start. People are going to start taking in a bigger picture. But until something like this happens to them, like what happened to you, or what happened to me with the banking system and the courts, until that happens to people, they're not interested. Not because they don't necessarily care about what's happened to you or to me, but because it's not happened to them, and they're fighting hard enough to kill, to fill their life. Get that money, pay for this, pay for that. We can just about stay safe, and it's getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And it's got to give. And people... You know, even to the extent of food in the prisons.
Oh, Dave, he's not finished.
They're lucky if they get a hot meal.
How dare she?
You know, we used to have a staff canteen. That got taken away before anything else. You know, it's so many different things. You know, grown men having to live on a slice of thin cardboard pizza for their lunch. And then they wonder why they get agitated, that they get hungry. You know, it's all the people that are affected. Yes, I'm going for staff. I you know, it's because I was a member of staff. But I do feel for those, you know, that have lost out as well. Because they may be prisoners. They're still human beings at the end of the day. And that was always my approach. You know, I wouldn't expect to be judged just on how I look, how I speak, or doing this. I wouldn't expect to be judged, but I was. You know, and to me, it was the way I was with prisoners, having two boys myself. I think it helped being able to talk to them. They found I was more approachable than some others may be. And there's none of that now. There's none of that trust between officers and prisoners, because so many are new staff and so many are prolific offenders, and they're just walking all over. They run the system again now. There is no control whatsoever.
Yeah. And again, how can you say that that's been an accident? Oops, look at that. Just by crossing that box and ticking that box, we've created this problem.
Yeah, but this is why on a certain website I did state, you know, that polls and surveys that were sent out by the unions and things like this, and I said about being tampered with, and somebody replied, oh, no. You know, we make sure we do it. And I'm like, okay, I witnessed the governor's personal assistant fraudulently filling in staff surveys in the chapel, which was anonymous and confidential. And I get a phone call from one of Kenny Brown's friends saying, have you filled your staff survey? I'm like, why? It's not mandatory. Yeah, but have you done it? Why? It's confidential. Have you done it? And I said, it's not your business if I've done it or not. And then to find someone fraudulently filling them in. Great. Of course the results are going to look good for it.
Interesting.
Well, Bristol Prison was number 3 in the country when I joined. It's now 115 out of 116. So it just goes to show how far it's gone down.
Wow. That's unbelievable, that.
Yeah.
And that's since when? Since what year?
2009.
And was that the voluntary?
Yeah, just before. Yeah. It started going down.
So you can actually picture where the cuts happened. You could actually see the actual crescent where it fell. Then.
Gosh, yeah, completely.
Was you going to say something, Jason? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. Listen, I would just, all I was going to do is I was just going to point out we've got 10 minutes left. Now we can use most of that up chatting, but I really wanted to ask you what's for you now. What going forward? What are your hopes and aspirations?
Mental health team.
Sorry. Yeah.
I'm still under the mental health team 6 years later, because every time I see anything about prisons on the telly and the papers, I get like, because I know so much about what is going on underneath. Eventually, I would like to be able to go back to work, but they completely destroyed the person I was. My belief in my capabilities disappeared. I was semi-comatose the first 2 years on the settee, and my son has had to endure all of this. So it's really a case of I've really literally just got myself back on track over the last 6 to 8 months. So this is now, I'm strong enough mentally to do this.
So where do you feel you want to take this now? Are you looking to take a private prosecution against him?
Whatever help I can get, I will take as far as law goes. But I want this to go more and more public, and more former officers, even current officers, to say, yeah, me too. You know, until people start doing that.
Well, as I've always said, it's going to take numbers. If you know, any firm can pick out on one, but if there's an entire firm of staff that are all worried about the same things, then as men and women and human rights, basic stuff, and they're being trampled on, and people are going to ask, how are they doing that? And this is what I was telling you earlier on, Teena, about the legal jurisdiction. The officer, the business, the Mr., Miss, Mr., Mrs., they're the titles that are coming under the legal. That is trade union that is controlling officer titles. So officer could be ordered into, I don't know, a dangerous situation, but you knowing that is dangerous, you would make a risk assessment on that and say, and you have every right to do that. What they're basically saying is that you've got to go to work and put your life in danger. Say again, sorry.
The problem is, no one will actually stand up and say, I refuse. Because they know
everybody's scared. Everybody's scared.
They know they'll be targeted. They know they'll be on a investigation. Why did you refuse an order, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And it's very hard for one single person to stand up against the system and say no.
It is.
Which is why I'm doing it. To say no.
So just tell us, for the people who are listening, just tell us where they can contact you again for any NHS staff, any fire staff,
anyone,
police, anybody
that has experienced anything I've said about, or would just like to discuss things, ask questions, anything. I have a Facebook group called Bullied to the Brink. Paul, if you can add the link to it on your page, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, please, anybody at all, whether you're a current officer, ex-officer, police, fire, ambulance, NHS, whatever. If you want to talk to me, have any information, it'd be brilliant. I'd really appreciate it. Really, really appreciate it.
I think I've just dropped that in the chat room on YouTube, so
brilliant.
We'll soon know.
We can add it to the Facebook link as well.
Yeah.
Well, Teena, it's been fascinating. I've got to say, when Webby booked you as a guest, and yesterday afternoon you were having a chat with Webby, and I were invited to that, but I just couldn't do it because I were up to my neck in pie, making a pie, so I just couldn't join. But I didn't know how it would go, but it seems to have gone well. How do you feel it's gone? Do you feel that you've been able to get your point across and the points that you wanted to make?
Yeah, definitely. Especially about, my case and how corrupt it was all the way up, and how I've been shafted. I know that so many others are. And if I can help them avoid being shafted, in whatever way, then brilliant. And so, yeah, thank you so much for letting me have the opportunity to say my story. I appreciate that so much.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Yeah, you're welcome anytime. I mean, listen. I'm looking for. We're always on the lookout for guests. If anybody's got an idea for a guest, or if anybody knows anybody, then just drop us a line on the Facebook page or something like that. Send us a message, because we get really interesting guests that perhaps don't get picked up on different radio stations and stuff. So and covering different subjects as well. I mean, this week's been Women's Week here on Raconteurs News. Yesterday we had Anne-Marie Carey.
I'm a stronger sexpert.
I know you're the strongest sex, believe me, I know that.
But yeah, I really appreciate your support, guys. It's it really helps.
Well, I just want to say anyway, before we have to say goodbye, just a few things I wanted to say. John, big thanks to John Hull. John, who goes by Johnny Jam Shovel in the chat room. He does our write-ups, and I've spoken to him today about continuing them with it, because it's obviously with Andy being his contact at Raconteurs News. I had to establish contact, and he's very kindly agreed to continue doing our write-ups. So big thanks and a big up to John Hull, or Johnny Jam Shovel, the Jam Shovel Meister, as we call him. I don't know, Webby, I want to ask you. Let's just do this on air, shall we? Are you available next week? Are you on next week?
As far as I know, yeah.
As far as you know.
As far as I know, aye.
Well, we've got nobody booked for next week at the moment, but I have been having a chat with Dave Sumner, who was previously on Raconteurs News. He's got quite a story. He's been blocked off Facebook for 30 days. He had a 30-day ban on a number of his accounts. I think he's got 2 or 3 accounts, backup ones. When he posted the green light, the crossing light, instead of a green man, it was a green gender-neutral symbol in London, and he filmed that, and he got a 30-day ban when he posted it on Facebook. So I've been talking to him, and also he's been up to Leeds to a Brexit rally, and he suffered. He got beat up, unfortunately, and he's still suffering. He's still suffering at the moment, but he said his shoulder's getting better. I had a conversation with him last night actually after the show. He'd sent me a message on Facebook, and he says he wants to come back on the show. So it's just a matter of time and getting the dates in order. Hopefully that will be for next week. So Dave Sumner next week maybe, but definitely something Monday and Tuesday. I think we're probably.
You say you're looking Monday for Dave?
I know I'm any day, mate. Any day. If you've got a guest for a day for Monday, then please bring them forth, and I shall deem them whether they are worthy or not.
I have nothing yet, but you never know. It's only Tuesday.
Yeah, Monday or Tuesday next week. They're both free, so if you've got an idea for a guest as well. And also I'm thinking about doing a once monthly, perhaps a late night one, but I want suggestions for people who have got... I want to interview somebody who's got a really, really wacky... conspiracy theory, something like there's people that, or there's a conspiracy theory that Australia doesn't exist, or this doesn't exist, or that doesn't exist. So what I'm looking for is suggestions for people that maybe let's not call them wacky because they might be right, but that people may think is really far out there. I'm thinking doing like a once monthly, whether you be available for that Webby or not, or whether I know we're doing we shouldn't really be doing this on air, but it sort of fills up the last couple of minutes. But so if anybody's...
Because I know throughout the prison service the funny handshakes are responsible for many, many things. And so let's see if there's a debate on funny handshakes and who they control.
That'd be a coup. Let's get a Freemason on. Let's get a Freemason on, Jason.
Listen, I think we've probably already had a Freemason on one or two. We'll not go there. Anyway, listen, it's that time. It's the end of the show. Big thanks to everybody. I've listened a lot of this stuff, and I'm sorry about this, Teena. Please don't take this the wrong way, but I've not really heard much of it. I've not really been absorbing it because I've been checking out the chat room and things, and I know I keep making excuses for not listening to you, don't I? But and then blaming it on other people. But I can assure you I'll be listening back to see exactly what you said. But I've been in the chat room. We've got a great chat room. We've got what a community we've got in there. Everyone has fun. Everyone has a laugh, and there is no bickering. Well, there's not very much bickering. Dinny's a bit of a cantankerous old git, but we can forgive him for that because he's a bit of a moderator. So, Paul, I'll get the last word to you, mate.
Well, I'd just like to thank you for coming on, Teena, and telling your story, because unless people start to tell these stories, people can't feel empowered if they've had those same issues. I know so many people that have been forced out of the police, forced out of even Asda through even the likes of bullying. But it's not just about bullying. The picture is a lot bigger. You've got to start with your own personal affairs. I mean, you're never going to get involved with anything otherwise until your affairs start to get threatened. But people are going to feel to get threatened. No, please carry on.
Sorry, can I just leave it on last note that there was a big poster at my son's school saying bullying kills. Well, it kills adults too.
Correct.
And that's what we need to realise.
Correct. And I think that's a great note to end on as well. So thank you very much, Teena Buckler. Thanks, Paul, for being my sidekick. Sidekick. My Siamese twin, shall we call you instead? That makes us both equal. But if we have to choose a gender, I'm going to choose. I'll tell you next week. Listen, tune in next week, folks.
You two right legs, though.
Yeah, I'd have to put you on. I'd have to put you on my left, wouldn't I? If I was Siamese twin, then I'd be able to walk.
I'll be right behind you then. That'd be weird, mate.
Brilliant. All right, listen, guys. Thanks to everyone in the chat room. It's been brilliant. I've really enjoyed it, and I found myself laughing at points where I shouldn't have been laughing, and realised that I shouldn't have been laughing, but I was because I was reading the chat room. Brilliant. Thank you, everybody. See you next week.